Adonai said to Moshe and Aharon, "How long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites. So tell them, as surely as I live, declares Adonai, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. In this desert your bodies will fall."
Shabbat Shalom. I come to you today from the steps of the synagogue at Masada. And unfortunately, I'm coming with a heart attitude that's not quite right. I was planning to hike up here on the snake path, but the snake path is closed. I'd been looking forward to this for a long time, so I'm kind of disappointed. Really disappointed. But I can't let that disappointment steal my joy, because I did get up here on the gondola, and it's pretty awesome to be here. But having a right heart attitude is really important, and that's actually what our Torah portion is about today. We're in the fourth aliyah of Shlach, and the Israelites have just come out of Egypt, and they are on the edge of going into the promised land. And they sent the spies in, and do you remember what happened? Yeah, the spies came back with a bad report. And they were afraid, and they didn't go in. God made them all these promises. He promised this land to them, and they were too afraid. They were fearing men and not fearing God. And we gotta get that right? We can't do that backwards. Because what we fear comes upon us. So if we fear God, then we're with God. But if we fear men or giants or anything else, and we grumble about it, well, you know what happened to the Israelites, right? They died in the wilderness. Only the two spies that came back with a good report, do you remember who they are? That's right, Joshua and Caleb. They got to enter the promised land. So we need to have a right heart attitude. In fact, Philippians 2:14 says, "Do everything without complaining or arguing." We need to be children of God, walking in the light, trusting in Him, working out our salvation with fear and trembling, shining like the stars in the night. And in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 7, it says, don't have your hearts hardened, right? Don't harden your hearts toward God. Don't harden in disbelief, because if we're in disbelief, then we can't enter His rest. We can't enter His promised land. We can't enter His rest. So this is incredibly important, to have a right heart attitude. Don't grumble against Adonai. There are some interesting connections between our Torah portion and what happened here at Masada. Maybe you know the story. So in our Torah portion, as you know, the Israelites are leaving Egypt, and who's behind them? The Egyptians, breathing down their necks. Well, here at Masada, the Jews were under siege from the Romans, and the Romans were encamped all the way around. Now, it wasn't a problem, because the Jews had a water source and they had plenty of food supplies. But what happened was the Romans were building a ramp up to the top. Masada is here on top of a cliff, straight cliff walls, no one can get up. So the Romans were building a siege ramp. It was the night of Passover, and the Romans were coming the next day, and there was no way out. Nothing but desert for miles around. And so they decided, rather than be captured and killed or sold into slavery, they committed suicide.
It was Passover. What if they had not committed suicide? Do you think Adonai would have saved them? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know for sure. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went into the fiery furnace having no idea that Adonai was going to be with them in the fire and save them and preserve them and bring them out. They went into it thinking this was their time to die. And many believers, like you and me, were martyred in the Roman Colosseums, killed by lions and gladiators for not renouncing their faith. So having a right heart attitude to trust in the Lord doesn't always mean that everything's going to work out the way that we think it should, but it will work out the way that Adonai wants it to. And that's what we need to have the right heart attitude about. So maybe I didn't get to go running up Masada, that's okay. I got to go up in a gondola and I got to see everything, and it was awesome. So, don't grumble against the Lord. Do everything without complaining or arguing, and don't let your hearts be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Trust in the Lord. May His heart direct yours. Shabbat Shalom.